if you die and go to heaven and then God plays you a movie of who you could have become, how would you feel? Welcome to the Kingspiration Podcast. This is the place where you'll learn how to get unstuck and gain momentum in your life and business. Each week, we tackle the real aspects of entrepreneurship, personal development, relationships, and fitness. I'm your co-host, Ethan King, from Atlanta, Georgia, USA, entrepreneur, TEDx speaker, and best-selling author of Wealth Beyond Money.
And I'm your co-host, Justin King, no relation to Ethan, from Cape Town, South Africa, entrepreneur, speaker, and business growth strategist. Our journey crosses continents and cultures, sharing wisdom and experiences to propel you forward. Welcome to Kingspiration. Let's start the conversation.
All right, welcome to today's episode. Ethan, you and I have been chatting a little bit about when I brought this topic up the other day. It's just around how to make better decisions and sometimes just how to make a decision. And the reason I brought it up is because I just feel like I've got, everybody does, but I feel like I've got a lot going on in my life at the moment. And the decisions that I have to make around work and the decisions that I have to make around extended family and the decisions that I have to make around my relationship. And this term decision fatigue has come into my head, and I'm starting to think, am I just fatigued when it comes to making decisions? And obviously we've all heard about the stories of Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg, and one way that they spoke about their ability to limit the number of decisions that they needed to make in a day was kind of going the route of choosing a uniform that they kind of showed up to the world in every single day. Steve Jobs, it was his black turtleneck. Zuckerberg, I'm actually not too sure. What does Zuckerberg wear every single day?
I don't know. I always see him in a hoodie, but I think he adopted the idea from Steve Jobs. It's like, okay, well, that's one less decision I have to make today is what to wear. So I'm just going to wear the same thing every day.
Exactly. And I kind of do that to a degree. I either go the good old black t-shirt, white t-shirt, or probably a navy t-shirt. And that's it. It kind of simplifies my life to a degree. But I know that is one big one, is this idea of the ability to eliminate choice. And that's going to be our point number one for this conversation. Mm-hmm. I've got a different ways that I've done it, but just on the uniform thing, I know that you've done it in something that you've also implemented in the workplace for different reasons. Is it right?
Yeah, it's funny. My company, Zeus's Closet, we make uniforms for other companies. So that's one thing we do as an embroidery shop. And for the longest time, we did not have our own uniforms. People could just come to work in whatever they wanted to wear. And one day it just hit me and said, hey, this the old adage, the cobbler's kids have no shoes. So one day we decided, hey, guys, we're gonna wear uniforms. So we made our own T-shirts. So everyone wears a Zeus's Closet shirt to work every day. And it was like the moment we did that, we saw so much benefit. Well, one, I was partly motivated why I didn't want to have to think about what to put on every day. So kind of like Steve Jobs. Two, it creates this cohesive team mentality. So we felt more like a team immediately because we were all wearing the same uniform, and we've continued to do that every day since. And the third thing is it's advertising and marketing, because when your team goes home and they're in the grocery store or out getting drinks or whatever, and they still have on that uniform, it may spark a conversation wherever they are. And then or even when I'm out, like people say, what is Zeus's Closet? And then you're also creating more advertising for your business. So, but we're talking about making decisions here. So that makes it easy. Just wear a uniform to work.
Yeah, I love it. I am going to squirrel us for a second, take us down it's not a rabbit hole. But the uniforms thing is really interesting to me, because what I've often thought about, me being based here in South Africa, you in the US, as far as I understand, the majority of schools before college is what I mean. Majority of schools, you wear casual clothes every single day to school, right? Whereas in 99% of schools in South Africa, you have a uniform that you wear to school every single day. So absolutely, the kids aren't having to make that decision, which I think was huge. But what I often think about is it's just one less thing for kids to worry about from a socioeconomic standpoint. Like if you are not able to go to school wearing brands or new clothes every single week or every second day or whatever it is, what does that mean? How do you look in front of your peers? versus
Yeah.
I was just so lucky growing up. I just had my uniform, I'd put it on, didn't have to think about it before I went to school. And it had that sense of camaraderie as well. Maybe that's a
Yeah.
different discussion, but
It is, but it is fascinating. I mean, there's so many socioeconomic things. I mean, when I was growing up, kids were getting killed over their Air Jordan shoes and their starter jackets, and it was a big deal. And we didn't have to wear uniforms, so there is this status thing. But also back to the decision topic, that's one less decision your kids have to think about when they're getting dressed in the morning. And it's interesting. I just looked it up. Only 20% of U.S. schools require uniforms, whereas in Africa, it's pretty much every school, right? Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's interesting.
I was trying to think off the top of my head if there were any that I could reference that don't, and I can't think of any.
Wow. Okay. So, but it's also eliminating decisions for the parents. Like, we don't have to think about we don't have to buy a whole bunch of clothes so for our kids, they wear a uniform 4 days out of the week. And then on Fridays, they get to wear what they want to wear. Okay. So it gives them a little bit of freedom of expression there.
I love that. Yeah. I love that. Okay. So we've got, first thing we're saying is eliminate choice. And one of the ways to do that in your life is to choose a uniform. Another way that I do it is it's going to sound silly, but is my breakfast. Like I have two options for breakfast. The one will be like it's scrambled egg and toast, or in the depths of winter, I'll go for a nice hot bowl of oats. And that's it. Like that simplifies my morning. I don't know if you've got any meal preferences that make your life easier.
Yeah, that definitely, keeping that down. Yeah, for me, for breakfast, I probably eat like 2 boiled eggs and a protein bar. Where it gets more challenging for me with the meal prep is when it comes to dinners, because I have to think about the family and they want more variety. I could probably eat like chicken and spinach every day, but they want, if we had pizza last night, it's like, no, we can't have pizza today. So we got to switch it up. But that is definitely a way to eliminate decisions. And I mean, I guess we have this find out like this tank of willpower, and we draw from that with every decision that we make every day. When you get to the end of the day, if you have decision fatigue, it's because you've had to make all these micro decisions. So the more you can eliminate, the better. And meal prep is definitely a great way to do that.
Okay. And then a second point that we spoke about was this idea of reversible versus irreversible or non-reversible decisions. And really what that means is, and I think it's Jeff Bezos speaks about the idea of a decision, it's a 1-door decision or a 2-door decision. I think I'm butchering that. But basically a 1-door decision is an irreversible decision, and 2-door means you can walk in and you can walk back out. So same concept. And the idea is that you need to identify the decision that you're making. Can you make it quickly based on the information that you have on hand? Because the impact of this decision is not massive, whether it's a financial impact, a time impact, or impact on your team, on your business, whatever it is. And once you have made the decision, if you realize that it was wrong, you can course correct, you can change it, and you can go on your way again. So that's the idea of making a reversible decision. Nice, quick, and easy. An irreversible, non-reversible decision is the one that is high, it's high risk. Well, it's high impact, and there's more time that needs to be taken in order to make the correct decision. You probably need to bring in more stakeholders that have context to the situation as well to help you make that decision. But it's not one that you can just make on the spur of the moment, because the consequences of that decision are that much greater, or there are significant consequences that need to be taken into consideration. So apply your mind and apply your time on spending time making the irreversible decisions. But for the reversible decisions, pull the trigger. Don't waste the energy that you have for decision making on those that you can course correct pretty easily.
Yeah. A lot of times we put way too much weight on a decision that is really reversible. Just do it. And I mean, look at what's the worst case scenario? What's the worst that could happen? And I'd say most decisions, you can undo them pretty easily. There's a lot of flexibility in life. But even outside of the business world, I heard someone share with me that they do a prayer that they say over their children each day is something like, I pray that for wisdom and discernment, especially over the irreversible decisions that my kids will encounter in life. I mean, if you think about it that way, just from life, if it's going to result in, possibly death or imprisonment or, taking someone else's life. I mean, those are like irreversible decisions. Like you can't do anything about that. But most things in life, you can kind of undo. So it allows us to assign weight, I think, to certain decisions. And then that takes some of the load off because you realize, make a big deal out of things that aren't really a big deal.
Another way that I've heard that reference before, because you speak about how do we allocate the weight to a decision, is allocating the idea of stakes to a decision. Not as in steaks that you eat, but what's on the line. So there's essentially three types of decision. Then there is no stakes, and that's your classic reversible. Low stakes. So even there might be a small consequence, but still pretty reversible, or high stakes, and that would be your irreversible or your non-reversible decision. So again, just putting it in one of those three buckets: no stakes, low stakes, or high stakes, and that allows you to figure out how much energy to allocate towards making that decision.
Yeah, that's a great approach.
Right. What have we got next?
Next, we have just make decisions. You just got to do it. A lot of times you exert fatigue because you just aren't making a decision. Just decide and do something. Exercise the muscle. I think this kind of ties into the last point where, once you look at the stakes, just don't over concern yourself with the outcome, because a lot of times we just keep putting it off. But if you at least just make a decision, then you can move forward, and usually you can undo something.
I really like that. I was trying to think of some smart line around. We've got to come up. I was thinking what micro script sums it up beautifully, but it's got to be like decision made equals getting paid. Like that. That's what it is, because it's
the best leaders.
It's very good stuff.
You say the strongest leaders in the world make decisions very, very quickly. Like, don't belabor the point. I mean, I hear it over and over again from some of the top billionaires in the world. It's like they're able to make decisions extremely quickly. So that's a trait, I think, that if you're listening to this podcast, you want to be successful, I assume. So adopt that trait in your life. And then this last point here that I added is have an ideal, like a motivational thing. And one quote that I heard that always stuck with me is the definition of hell on earth would be to get to the end of life and then you are showed the person that you could have become. And for me, I think, and I've heard that quote said many different ways. I don't know who it's originally attributed to, but I heard it the other way. I heard it recently. It's like if you die and go to heaven and then God plays you a movie of who you could have become, how would you feel? And for me, I don't want to feel ashamed or bad because I didn't live up to that potential, but I would want to be the person in the movie. And so when I think about every decision, every micro decision, I think, well, what would the most evolved version of Ethan do in this situation? Like, what would that guy do? Whether it's, when I leave out of the subdivision, do I go right or left? Or whether it's, well, do I invest in this new piece of machinery? Or, no matter the decision, big or small. And when I was president of the EO chapter, I made shirts that I gave to every member. And it had on there in mirror script, like how Da Vinci used to write in his journals. And when you look in the mirror, it says, what would the best, most evolved version of, and that has your name. So what would the best, most evolved version of Justin do? So it's a constant reminder every time you look in the mirror, like, okay, what would the person that I want to be, or this ideal future version of myself, what decision would they make in this particular situation? And that helps me a lot as a guiding compass.
I love that. And I think it's a great place to actually start wrapping this conversation up. But Trevor Mowat, he works with high performance athletes. He's all about, he's a mindset coach. And he often speaks about, and it fits in perfectly with what you said. He actually speaks about the idea that if you're wanting to be somebody great, or you're wanting to be the best that you can be, there's actually not that many decisions that you have to make. Because and we've seen all the people that have showed up before us, or that best version of yourself, in the moment, what is the decision that you have to make in this moment between these two things? If you're wanting to run a marathon in a month's time, the decision that you have to make isn't, should I get up off the couch today or shouldn't I?
Right.
Well, yes, you should. Like you have to. Like that.
Yeah.
So the decision's actually already made for you
Yeah.
by who you want to become. So
Yeah.
that's a I love it.
That's a great framework. I mean, the marathon example is like not am I going to get up off the couch or not? It's like how many miles am I going to run today? Am I running 20 miles or am I running 16 miles? So it changes the whole framework of the decision once you have this ideal in mind. That's a great way to end it there. So we have, just to recap the 5 steps that we went through here on how to make better decisions in your life and avoid decision fatigue. First, just eliminate choice. Wear a uniform every day so that's one less decision you have to make. Prep your meals in advance if you're able to do that so you don't have to think about what to prepare for each meal. Step 3 would be look at each decision and assign weight. Is it reversible or is it irreversible? And then, of course, assign bigger weight to the irreversible decisions, or you can weigh it as a low stakes, medium stakes, or high stakes. And then just actually make decisions. Don't belabor the point, but just actually make a decision and exercise that muscle. And then the last point is to have an ideal framework so that will, once you have that goal in mind of who you want to be or the goal you want to achieve, that will help you make the decisions differently.
That's a wrap for today's episode of Kingspiration. We hope this conversation sparked insights to ignite action in your life and business.
We're on this journey together, sharing our challenges and successes to help all of us take the next step towards building momentum and ultimately reaching our goals.
If you found value in today's episode, please share it with someone else who might benefit and leave us a 5-star review.
And remember to hit subscribe so you don't miss out on our weekly conversations. Until next time, keep rolling, keep growing, and keep being inspired.